that I actually think, and I don't know if this is contrarian or not, but I actually think the very first hire that you should make at that early stage is actually an SDR. Okay, because as you well know, Sarah, like the process of building pipeline takes time and it takes focus. It's quite hard to do pipeline building and do something else as well. I mean, that's essentially why the predictable revenue book was even written in the first place. That context shifting is really, really hard as you're generating pipeline. Even harder if you're the CEO as well, and you're selling and you're running a small team and you're building product. Like, it's just impossible almost to build pipeline. And the reason I think, well, there's another really important reason why I think the SDR is the first hire, which is what you've got to do for those first 10-ish customers, right? Let's it's relatively arbitrary, but let's just use the word 10 because everyone uses the word 10. Actually, no, let's use the word 11. Right? So for your first 11 customers, it's really, really important. And I know that Aaron talks about this from Impossible to Inevitable, which by the way, I'm in that book. I have 3.5 pages, which is pretty cool. My mum was very proud. Is that it's so important to get some proxy of product market fit that you're really solving a problem. Is that those early 11 customers you've got from cold. Okay, so another thing that can happen easily is you get warm introductions to these people. You get warm introductions via friends, via family, via maybe a pre-seed or a seed VC, and it lulls you into this false sense of security that, like, hey, this is kind of easy. I'll meet these people and they buy into like a trial. Fantastic. What the SDR, bringing that SDR in, does for you, it really makes you focus on your ICP, really focus, because that's what you have to do to make them successful. Really focus on your messaging, making sure that you're talking to the pain that you're solving, and you get pipeline from cold. And if you then can close that into trial and you get to the magic 11, you're basically kind of on your way. And let's say, who knows what your ACV is, but your 11 customers gets you to a couple of 100,000. It's at that point, you can now start to be thinking about hiring maybe a couple of AEs. So that's the very, I'd say.
Yeah, I have a question about this SDR. So specifically, if we're talking about one of these technical founders who doesn't have necessarily that sales expertise themselves, how can they make sure that they equip that kind of solo SDR with everything they need to be successful for those first 11 customers?
I won't say get a subscription to Sales Impact Academy, because that would be massively, massively self-serving. But yeah, look, I'm not saying it's easy. Like, none of this is like, starting a company and growing a company is not easy. There's probably a lot of resources out there on the internet to help you to understand how you manage a BDR. There's plenty of like networking groups you can go to. There's consultants up the wazoo these days who've been SDR leaders, who you could perhaps get in for a day a week. And that's probably the route I would take if I was in that position, just to, because you haven't got the skills to help to train an SDR, right, and build them up. I'd probably say, if you were to like shock horror and not get a subscription to Sales Impact Academy, I'd say like get maybe a consultant in for like half a day a week. Plenty of ways of finding groups where you can find those consultants, and they'll help you to get an SDR up and running.
Got it. And
even probably hire them in the first place, to be honest with you, because that's probably a little bit scary for someone that's not done it before.
Cool.
So anyway, I know I've labored that a little bit, but it's so critical. And hopefully I've saved X number of companies from making the dramatic mistake of hiring people too soon in sales. Your next phase, so kind of assuming here that you've got some capital, right? You've done a pre-seed round, you've got some money, obviously you're building your tech team as well. Once you've got maybe to that couple of 100,000 in sort of ARR, you got your 11, maybe 15, roughly speaking, there's traction, you've got them from cold. It's like, what, I think we can repeat this now. We've got to 11, we can get to 100. So the structure of the team next, and this is another classic mistake, I've made this mistake as well, is not starting to build a marketing engine early enough. So many people default, and I've done it, like I said, I've done this, You build your SDR function first, you get another SDR and you focus on that, and you get your AEs, and you've just got an SDR AE motion. And then after a while, you're like, I want some inbound now. But actually, it takes time, right? It takes 6-9 months to go from standing start to build predictability from an inbound engine. So if you've got the cash, get a paper and pen. This is literally the team that I think you then build next, right? And bearing in mind, you're still doing this essentially as the CEO. So two AEs, not one. Always good to have like two. Again, if you can afford it. Quite hard to know what good looks like if it's just one. I get another SDR, so you've got a 1-to-1 ratio of SDRs to AEs. Buddy them up if you want, or round robin. It doesn't really matter. I have a marketing exec, a content manager, who's starting to do content for you, and you've got a multi-skilled marketing exec. I'd have a RevOps person pretty damn quick, like straight away. And again, you can get a RevOps person on like a day a week. We did it as the beginning of Sales Impact Academy. In fact, we got to about 3 million in ARR with a 2-day-a-week RevOps person, and then things start to break. But you know, again, like think creatively about just getting the resource in. If you get RevOps in at that stage, you won't get into a mess. And then the final really, really important one is a customer success rep. It's in this stage, it is all about product market fit and customer success. Yeah, you want to you want to be bringing on customers and learning from them, but this is all about making sure that those customers that have bought into your product, either on a trial or actually bought into an annual subscription, are getting value. If you cycle around a year and they all drop out, you're going to find it very hard to raise your next fund, your next funding round, and it could be curtains, right? Could be over. So that's the team. And that, I think, is a strong team. You've got good acquisition, you're building marketing muscle, you've got RevOps to keep everything organized, and you've got a customer success rep to really be focused on success. Don't think for a second at this stage about cross-sell, upsell, or any of that nonsense. Just think success. That's it. And that team should propel you to $1 million plus in revenue in X period of time.